So as people are coming in and introducing themselves in the chat, I will go ahead and get started with a couple of introductions here. So joining us, we have some friends from College Board and from the high school world. We have Maureen LaRaviere, Dennis Beste from College Board. We also have Erin Carlson from Sandusky Junior Senior High School. As we're going to be talking about some of our PSAT score data, information, and practices for you all. Just a couple of notes before we officially get started and they take over. We are going to use the Q&A system for questions. We had about 70 people register for the webinar, so it's just a cleaner, easier way for us to track all the questions that are coming in. You actually should have the ability to upvote and hit the little thumbs up button so we can kind of prioritize those questions if we get short on time. We'll use the chat to just share ideas and comments, just like you're introducing yourselves right now. You are sharing out something you're hoping to learn today. And as a reminder, both this slide deck that College Board is going to share, as well as a recording of this webinar, will be sent out to you all within the next day or two. We will also post it in some follow-up communications and publications by MASSP. And then just as a reminder, we put this in front of every webinar we run. The information that you are going to see today is relevant through today, November 20th, 2025. You will have the ability to come back and check this webinar out down the road. So whether it's a day from now, a week from now, a year from now, you just have to be mindful that the information that you are seeing is relevant and accurate through that date and time. So you just want to make sure you check to see if anything has maybe changed over the time that has passed. So that is all from me. I'm going to stop sharing, and I think Dennis is going to take over, and the show is yours, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, Dennis. So as we're getting started, first, welcome everyone, and we appreciate your time this morning in attending our Fall 2025 PSAT Data Webinar. And just to introduce ourselves, I'll begin and then turn it over to Dennis and Erin. My name's Maureen LaRaviere, and I'm an executive director at the College Board out of our Midwest region. And I'm thrilled to have all of you today and engage with our Michigan educators. Dennis, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful meeting you. Some of your names I recognize from the chat, but my name is Dennis Beste, and I serve as the director to supporting all the districts and state entities here within the state of Michigan. Please, if anybody has any questions or if anybody needs something, we'd love to support you. Good morning and welcome. Erin?
Good morning. My name is Erin Carlson. I am an English teacher from Sandusky Junior Senior High School. And I'm just here to share some of the ways that I've learned to pull the data from College Board and how I pass that on to our teachers in our building.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Dennis. So for today, our high-level objectives are essentially we want to ensure that you can access the fall PSAT score data. We'll briefly walk through those steps. If you're encountering any issues, feel free to reach out to Dennis or myself, and we can help you directly do that. I'd say most notably today is hearing from the field and Erin's suggestions and support in terms of how she uses the data and the other instructional tools in tandem with reviewing fall PSAT results. And then we'll just ensure that you've got a great high-level overview of analyzing the scores and various reports within our K-12 assessment reporting portal. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. And essentially what we will do is review those SAT Suite basics. We just want to make sure there's a foundational understanding, as we know, with both the SAT Suite being provided by MDE in the spring, and then those of you who offer PSAT opportunities in the fall, just seeing the through line from fall to spring is, we'll just highlight some high-level components of the test structure. And then again, we'll dive into a high-level overview of each one of the reports. So in terms of the triangulation of our three anchor programs between SAT Suite, our BigFuture program, and Advanced Placement, we just want to show you that there's interconnectedness between how we are measuring readiness and the way in which educators can engage in the SAT Suite portal to take a closer look at not only the scores and reporting data from the SAT Suite, but also think about there's an opportunity to explore BigFuture School usage within the K-12 portal and access AP potential. If any of those two topics warrant more discussion, please reach out to Dennis or myself, and we can engage with you directly if you'd like to dive into making stronger connections of those other two tools as well. So let's dive into a little bit around after the test and really the benefits for students and educators, and essentially honing in on the relevance of receiving score reports within a 2-week turnaround for testing, but also having the opportunity to make actionable decisions from that data to impact spring preparedness, but also other opportunities, as I said previously, with AP potential data and making master schedule decisions. As we know, this is the time where that planning already for school year 26-27 is underway. The other thing we'll talk about, and Erin will name several of the other benefits in terms of the tools and resources that she uses, really making that through line again from scores and reporting to the benefits of using practice within Blue Book. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get there. Thanks, Dennis. So high-level overview of the tools to support our SAT Suite data analysis are there. And in order to dive deeper, again, we just want to provide a foundational understanding of our assessment framework. And as we shift to the next slide, we'll start with the SAT Suite, just ensuring to provide that foundational understanding of the SAT Suite. So as we know, we begin with the PSAT 8-9, and in the fall, PSAT and MSQT can be locally offered for 10th or 11th grade students, knowing that there's an opportunity to qualify for scholarships or in grade 11 national merit. We also want to see the through line for districts that want to use the tools that are available in Blue Book and in partnership with Khan Academy to prepare for SAT School Day in the spring. And so as I outline the foundational framework of the SAT Suite, we'll talk about the vertical scaling of the assessment, along with how to focus on opportunities to observe growth over time from using PSAT 8-9 as the baseline through SAT. As we shift to the next slide for our test specifications, high-level overview of just the number of questions and total minutes that are on the ELA portion of the first part of PSAT, which also mirrors the SAT format. And then I'll talk in more depth around the discrete questions associated with our 4 content domain areas and how those overlap with the knowledge and skills report and our skills insight tool. In terms of the math component, we have a total of 44 questions along with the time spent there. We have more time per question, also considering there are student-produced responses that are associated in the math section as students are navigating through questions whereby those sections of questions require the student to provide their answer. Again, as the 4 content domains are listed there, we'll explain a little bit more in depth around making the connections on the performance bands to performance on those specific content domains. Next up, again, a little bit more in depth here for the content domains. So just in terms of anchoring us in beyond viewing the scores in the platform, the content domains reflect the content areas that are assessed on the SAT Suite, both for the ELA and the math. And the strong performance in these areas signal that the student is building those skills. And the beauty of using the SAT as the suite, and whether it's PSAT 8-9 or even PSAT and MSQT in grade 10, can begin to see how students are performing in those areas and what are the skills that students have mastered and areas that students may need continued support, practice, and just being able to align those pieces to what you're doing daily or your teachers are doing daily in their classrooms. Additionally, then for the math, with the 4 content domains for math, those also reflect what's expected throughout the suite for students to master, but the number of questions and the associated complexity and skills for the math does vary as students participate within the suite and engage with items at PSAT and MSQT in grade 11. The next slide focuses on the benchmarks, and I do want to anchor us in a high-level understanding of the grade level benchmarks compared to the SAT benchmark. I'm teeing this up intentionally because as we look at the performance by students benchmark report, that information will be indicated at the grade level, especially important for PSAT test taking in terms of our students meeting or approaching or have not yet met the benchmark. So again, just to anchor us in what does the benchmark mean? And so regardless of grade level or SAT, the benchmark essentially means students have that 75% likelihood of earning at least a C in a first semester credit-bearing course. And the signal that students receive on their score report and that you as administrators and your teachers see on grade level benchmarks is how students are trending towards that expected growth of the SAT benchmarks. When we take a closer look at performance by the benchmark reports, there's certain ways in which you can use the K-12 portal to interact with the data and review student level performance. And Erin is going to dig into how she does this when she exports the data offline and marries this with a few other reports for intentional use at the teacher level. On the next slide, we have our performance score bands. So these bands reflect the reading and writing section scores, and that performance score band range of the 1 to 7. We'll see how that is reported on the knowledge and skills report. And the 4 content domains for each ELA and the math are associated with a performance score band. And this is really where we get to see at a more granular level the percent of students and that percent of students are how they're performing on those content domains, but also the key actions that teachers can take in terms of discussing that performance with students and potentially integrating some shifts into instruction. And then lastly, on this slide, I like how this slide is laid out in the sense of where there's the correlation between the performance score bands and how the benchmark scores work together to make this full picture of readiness and growth. And so not only is this an opportunity when looking at the performance score bands to see beyond whether or not a student met the benchmark, but also can gauge again, the level of where, according to the grade level, how students are performing and where there's an opportunity to continue to make shifts within a school year, considering you've administered PSAT this fall to help students improve in those skill areas. So again, I'm purposely providing this at a surface level to set the stage for what you'll see in the portal, both for performance reports, benchmarks, and the performance score ranges on those content domains. So before we shift into the educator reports, I just want to provide a brief overview of student reporting. And again, from the release of our scores from the October administration, at this point, all scores have been released from PSAT admin. And so students can access their scores in one of 3 ways. Most notably, meeting students where they're at is on the BigFuture mobile app. Students want to have instantaneous access to their scores, and they're able to do so for PSAT and MSQT and PSAT 10 when they take that in the spring. But they're able to provide their number during the student readiness check and then have access to their scores once they've been released. And we release scores after the school day, so not to interfere with instruction during the day. Additionally, students can still use their College Board account and access scores there. And then the third option is some schools do still prefer to provide students an official score report in a PDF format, and that ability to batch print those score reports does still exist. For those of you who may not have seen, how does the BigFuture mobile app look for students? One, just here's a little screenshot of what students are able to see once they've accessed the app, and they can engage in a college search, career exploration, and take a career quiz. But know that with the BigFuture app, the app is privacy forward and never shares student PII with institutions and organizations who have partnered with us to provide information about their organizations within the app. And then shifting to career information, there's also the opportunity for students to explore in further depth what their Career Insight Snapshot provides. That list of growing in demand careers in the state of Michigan is included in a student score report, but within the app, students can then elect to dig deeper into the interests that they have and take that career quiz as well to be able to explore other courses and majors that may be of interest to them. One other thing just to note here, and again, more so for the purposes for receiving the slide deck afterwards, but being able to see these options both around BigFuture School and connections. For each administration, students must elect to opt in to BigFuture School, provide their mobile number, and engage with connections, which allows students to receive messages from institutions that are looking to recruit students that may meet their profile or have expressed interest in attending their institution. So that's just a little bit more about how that looks for a student level perspective. And then on the next slide for student score reports. So shifting to what does it look like when a student accesses their score report within their College Board account? It actually mirrors the same view as when you as an educator access an individual student in the K-12 portal. You're able to see the student's latest test score. You're able to see high-level information about their ELA and math section scores, their percentiles, and then information about their career insights. So what I really value about this is that if there's one-to-one engagement with counselors or teachers around interests in careers, that visibility is also provided to the educator at the student level view as well. And then on the next slide, AP Potential. So students are able to engage with AP Potential as they, they are given a report of the potential for which they demonstrate earning a 3 or higher. That likelihood threshold is set at 60%. So for students, they get an initial overview of their AP Potential report and then are able to see other opportunities in which they're demonstrating potential and could potentially enroll in a course should your school offer that. And then as we continue through the student section here, again, just really thinking about looking at student success and how we want to ensure the reports and the data we're providing students show them their ability to demonstrate their skills on the SAT suite, but also where we want to ensure students are empowered to explore other tools and resources within their accounts. Lastly, just a brief snapshot here of the student score report, the PDF version, and just how that looks. Everything's on one clean page, and that's easily distributed to students should that option be leveraged by your district to print out. And on the next slide, there's a little bit more information there on career insights and the skills and expected job market there. And again, that would be germane to Michigan. Shifting gears at a high level here, I'm going to go through rather briefly each one of the reports so that it sets the stage on some of the other components that Erin is going to discuss in more depth. So in our K-12 assessment reporting portal, there's two components that you can access as educators. One is the K-12 reporting portal itself and that interactive system to access scores and reports, and then the AP Potential tool. You're able to activate an AP Potential access code and then also see all students who demonstrated AP Potential based on the most recent PSAT administration. I am going to toggle through these slides rather quickly, but know that they'll be in the deck. And should you need any help accessing your scores, you can reach out to Dennis or myself. Just know that in order to view your scores, we use a platform called Managing Access Tool, and that's within your educator dashboard. Essentially, in order to assign access, you will need that access code. Listed on this slide and linked afterwards will be a link to a brief training and the steps and the recommended roles to assign folks in your buildings to be able to view student level score data. The other subsequent steps will also be included here. And as Dennis, as you toggle through those, all of those steps to accessing your score reports will be included. On this slide here, you'll just want to ensure as we're providing an overview, if you're able to get into the K-12 assessment reporting and have that open to the side during our session today, it helps as we're navigating the different reports. Here's the K-12 reporting portal homepage, and essentially this is what drives access to the various reports listed on the next slide. Performance by all students and demographics, knowledge and skills report, and then several BigFuture related reports. And know that we will also have a BigFuture webinar in early spring, so we'll dive into some of those reports later on, and then a growth report as well. For individual students, and this is where Erin will bring to life the student roster report. This is where you're able to see individual student reports, and again, those batch score PDFs that you're able to access and print out. The next several slides, again, we'll toggle through quickly, but I'll just voice over that once you're in the system and you want to view any of the reports, essentially you just click on whether you want to see performance by all students or an individual student. You'll toggle through the drop-down menu, select your most recent administration, and then you'll be able to determine if there's a particular grade level first season of testing, and then grade level in order to access the report. For many of your districts, if you've administered PSAT and MSQT just to grade 11, you're able to select that also individually. For our demographics report, the way in which you can interact with the data is looking at gender, race, ethnicity, and if you did want to look at fee waiver usage, that is accessible for weekend SAT. In terms of our performance reports, when you engage in our K-12 reporting portal, those are the first two reports that appear, and you're able to look at that by all students or really hone in on if you want to take a look at demographics in more depth. These next slides, and you'll have them again in the recap, provide an overview of the different data components that are reported. But essentially, the performance by all students and the performance by demographics report, you can take a look at that data by mean score or by benchmarks. So if you really want to see the score totals, the way in which students are progressing at ELA and at math, you're able to do that at the score level and then also at the benchmark. So you can see you're able to use those reports to get to that information. For those of you who work at the district level, you're able to see that also at a school level. So in the hierarchy, you'd be able to do that same analysis at the school level as well. And just the outline here of performance by demographics mean score. Again, you're able to select which demographic you'd like to overlay into the data reporting as you're interacting with within the online K-12 reporting portal. And then the benchmark report as well, you're able to see the demographic information for those selected demographics and progress again to whether or not students met the benchmark we're approaching or did not meet either benchmark. Knowledge and skills. This is my favorite report. I could talk about this one in and of itself for an hour, but the knowledge and skills report outlines all of if you can click to the next slide, Dennis, outlines those section performance bands. I talked earlier about 7 performance bands across the 4 content domains. So this report is available for reading and writing and for math. And you're able to see there where essentially performance across those section score bands landed across your students' performance, and then the percentage of students that were within those ranges. I like the combination of both seeing the number of students and the percentage, and your ability to compare groups in terms of you're able to actually add in the comparison to district to state and US. So if you just also want to see that level of performance, you're able to do that. But our default view is essentially at the district, or if you're looking at the school level. All of that information on the last slide there from this slide just tees up if we had more time to look at what your recommendation would be for this school or district's performance, essentially looking across at the 4 content domains, the percent of students that scored in the lowest performance band and the percent of students that scored in the highest, right? And as we look across here, there's even a bell curve. So thinking about this is where you can reach out to Dennis or myself to engage in a far more deeper dive into how to analyze these reports, and then think about opportunities to really hone in on student level interventions. Lastly, I'll just tee up for Erin here the student roster report. The student roster report allows you to access student level information individually and allows you to select which column headers you want to export and then use offline to complement your internal data systems. And so as we click to the next slide, you're able to see the content domain information there, student level information, and then the ability to export that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin to share her suggestions and the steps she takes to actually do that live and for student level data at her school.
Thank you, Maureen. And this is perfect timing because the knowledge and skills reports and the student rosters are really where I kind of hone in on when I pass data on to our PLC teams and other teachers in the district. So I do go to the K-12 assessment reporting first. You're probably familiar with that on your dashboard. After you click that one, go on. This is what the new kind of interface looks like when you click on K-12 reporting. So you'll select up at the top what test it is you're looking for. It does default to a lot of the weekend tests, so you will probably have to find your school day testing information right here, but you can select whatever assessment it is that you would like to look at the data for. Let's go to the next one. Then I go down to the aggregate knowledge and skills report section when I find the test that I'd like to take the report from. Go ahead. And then you'll see the same thing that Maureen showed here. This is where you'll see some percentages from those 4 content domains. And this is what's important to me as an English teacher. I'd like to see those 4 content domains and where my students are performing in each of them. So it gives me a better idea of where I should be focusing my attention in my classroom. And then because we do the suite across the board, this is a great PLC discussion point. Are we seeing areas where we need to address some changes in our curriculum? Is this across the board, or is this just a one class kind of issue? And how can we as a team address our strengths and weakness areas that we need to focus in on? So these 4 content domains become really important. And I think it's crucial that your educators in your building understand that the test is broken up into these 4 content domains. These are also the same domains that your students are going to see on their score report. So they need to understand what each of those domains represent. So this is a great screen to pass on to your teachers. I'll show you some ways to do that in just a second.
Hey, Erin.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Just obviously, some of this has to do with access and who can see what. And so obviously, you're going to want, a principal's going to want certain teachers, math, English teachers, to be able to have access to this. So can you just talk really quickly about how they need to go about getting access to be able to see some of this data?
Correct. If they go onto that managing access button in their own login for College Board, they can give the K-12 access. Maureen kind of hit on that before. You'll see those slides a little bit earlier, but you do have to give any educator that you want access to those reports, that K-12 access report permission. So yes, that's a great question. And if Maureen wants to say anything else on that.
Sure, Brian, great question. And I know I breezed through those slides, but there's definitely value in determining who else in your school or district is able to see detailed level student information about students. The autonomous decision there is at the teacher level. Is that done at the department chair level, at the teacher level? Because no, there is once access is assigned, that end user is able to see data for all students. So just keeping that in mind, and that's partially why Erin is here intentionally to talk about her own students and as she shares that. So just think about the way to use the data both for district, school level, aggregate view, and then with Erin here, a way in which to engage teacher leaders to take a look at their own classroom data. But if you ever need help with access, please reach out to Dennis and I. We don't want that to be a hurdle to get to the good stuff of looking at the data. Thanks.
And know that not all of our teachers in our building do have access to this. I pull these reports myself, and then I'll share a template with you that I use when I pull these reports, that if your admin or curriculum person just wants to take care of pulling those reports and then passing them on so you don't have to give access, that's definitely a way to go around that as well. So after that step, I go to, can't see it very well up here, but there's a View Students button up at the top where the red bar is around. So I click on View Students, go to the next slide. And then, important for me to weed out all of the information I don't need, I click this Add and Hide Columns button. Go ahead and go to the next one. And from there, I deselect all of the information I don't need. So I already know what test this is. I take off any of the features that are really just going to bog up my Excel sheet. So I deselect all of these pieces, and then I select on the next slide these things. So what's important to me as the educator, and when I'm passing on data to the other teachers in the building, I want to know the overall score. I want to know their reading, writing score, their math score, whether or not they met benchmark in each of those areas. And then I select each of the content domains. So what score band are my students in the 4 content domains in reading and writing, and then the 4 content domains in math. So those are the important pieces for me as an educator. So select those things. And then you're going to hit the Export Report button. And then that will give me an Excel sheet that I can work with where I don't have to hide a bunch of columns. So then go ahead to the next slide. And this is what I get. So you'll have all of your student names on the left-hand side. You have their overall score from the test, the ELA score, the benchmark for ELA, the 4 content domains, and then you'll also have the math if you selected the math. You could do these separately or together. But same 4 content domains for each of those bands. Now I have a snapshot of all of my students for each of those content domains. And that's something valuable that your educators can look at. Are there some areas where a student is scoring very high in that domain, but other domains, they're a lot lower? Those become individual conversations that your educators can have with your students, and to give some differentiated instruction based on their skills. And the next slide. What I do is I use this template that I will share with you. It's so basic, but I do think if you have a template already set, it makes things a little bit easier. So I copy all of the names of my students on the left-hand side from the report before, and I paste them into this spreadsheet. So once the Excel report comes up from College Board, all of that gets pasted into this all data section. And then we go to the next slide. And I paste each of my students' name, that entire column, into the A column, the C column, the E column, and the G column. Because now I have an alphabetized list of all of those names in each of these tabs. Then go ahead and go to the next slide. I do the same thing in a separate tab to give my teachers a broader view of what their total score was. So I have to copy all of their names into tabs A, C, and E again. And then I go back. and paste the names in all of these for the English, the reading and writing part of the test. Go ahead. Same thing for reading and writing on these tabs. So again, what we're doing here is just copying the list of names in each of these columns. And then go ahead to the next slide. Here is where I type in those percentages. Maureen showed this report on the first page that you open when you see the percentages from each of those domains. I just give a screenshot of all the percentages for each of the content domains. So this doesn't have any of the names. This is the overview. That is the last tab on this Excel sheet. And then I go back to the next slide. Now that all of my names have been copied in each of those columns, now I highlight each column and paste it into the section of the tabs at the bottom that they need to go to. So I would take the overall scores, copy that into the reading and writing tab, total score, and the math total score. I will copy the information and ideas tab and put that into the ELA skills tab. You can kind of see this. It's copying and pasting tabs next to student names in each of those columns so that they're all kind of individualized. You can go ahead and scroll to the next page. So now you can kind of see what this would look like. All students' names in the algebra section with their content domains score band in algebra, advanced math, etc. You get the idea. It's a lot of copying and pasting. Next slide. This is where it becomes really helpful. This is where I do a data sort then. So you select the score band, let's say in this case, the information and idea score band. I highlight that band and include that with my student names. Then I select data and do a data sort. Now what it's going to do is give all of my students that are at the lowest score band to the highest score band in order. So now I have groups of students with their names, and now I can take that to the teachers, and this becomes informative for them. Where are our areas, strengths and weaknesses, and what students are fitting in here, and can we make some hypothesis about why these things are happening? I know we used to have the question analysis, and people were a little upset when we lost the question analysis. But I do think this becomes a really valuable tool for teachers to use in replace of that question analysis. Now it does have a name with a score bands, and there are lots of resources that College Board offers to show what types of questions fit within those score bands. So those become valuable pieces when you're having discussions with educators. What do these questions look like, and how can we address the things that students are struggling with within our curriculum? So this report for me, when I pass it on to teachers, is probably the best talking piece. Each of the 4 content domains, where are students at, low to high, and how can we address some of those bubble kids and helping them move that needle forward. So that's what I have for the data.
Erin, thank you so much for sharing how long or how you would approach exporting the data and merging it together to look at student level performance. One question in the chat is, how long does this process take? And while you're answering that question, Dennis, I'm going to have you, if you can shift to our Blue Book section, slide 91, we're going to advance forward to that. Thanks.
So I've done quite a few of these data reports, so I'm getting pretty good at it. I would say it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes per class to do the copying and pasting into each of them, and then sorting through, and then I do some like I draw borders around certain things and highlight things, but I would say 15 to 20 minutes per class.
Perfect.
And I will share this template, so you can make a copy of that template and just do any of that copying and pasting if you'd like, with just a few of the slides to go through that if you would like.
Thank you so much, Erin. That was going to be the next question, so already got to it. So with that, what we'd like to do, and with the benefit of having Erin on with us today, we want to provide an overview of Blue Book and practice tests. Dennis will outline how this looks from a College Board perspective, but as we think about the best use of practice and how to do that in mirroring the experience that students will have in spring, Dennis is going to explain how this looks, and then Erin's going to share some of her recommendations for practice as well. Dennis, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Maureen. Appreciate it. Yeah, Blue Book is a tremendous resource that sometimes gets overlooked. I think a lot of people think of Blue Book as just a platform or just an app that students take the assessment within, but is a tremendous asset, a tremendous resource for individuals, for students to really support them in their growth and acquiring this knowledge and these skills. And when you go into Blue Book, there are a couple different features that we want to highlight that can help you position your students for success. We have test preview, and we have the full-length practice test. Test preview, you can kind of think of it like a rental car, right? When you get a rental car, you adjust the mirrors, you adjust the seat, you play with the different features just so you can get comfortable with using a car that you haven't used before. And test preview is the same thing. We want to afford your students that same luxury of getting comfortable, of making sure that we're placing them in a position to succeed. So they can play with the different features. There's an annotation feature, they can play with the line reader, they can utilize the answer eliminator or anything else to make sure that they have all the tools and are positioned to succeed. There are also untimed questions that allow students to try out the Blue Book tools and just get more comfortable with that digital testing environment. These questions aren't scored and the students don't receive feedback on their answers, but they give them that ability to practice, give them that ability to sharpen their skills. And then for the full-length practice tests, those are timed. They're just like real tests, and they're scored like real tests too, and serve as an incredible resource to build that level of comfort, that level of familiarity, while also providing students additional benefits, which I'll touch on in a second here. So this is what the Blue Book homepage looks like. You guys may be familiar with this. You can see there's a test preview, like we mentioned, that full-length practice test. There's a test card for any upcoming assessments. There's an exam overview video, a summary of their approved accommodations. All of this is what students have access to. And these are some things that we want to make sure that you guys relay back to your students or your faculty. It's important for everybody to understand how important Blue Book can be. The first thing that we want to do is talk about test-taking strategies. You guys talk to your students about this all the time, but how do they do this within the environment in which they're going to take this assessment? So just thinking about test-taking strategies, are they reading the answers first and then the questions? Are they eliminating answers? What are they doing? What's the best approach for them and what works for them? Are they paying attention to pacing? I've definitely sat in an assessment and I've had more time, or someone yelled 5 more minutes and I'm scrambling to finish those last 15. How do we get them comfortable with the time frame that's allotted for them? Trying to duplicate testing conditions as closely as possible. That's definitely something that we want students to become familiar with, because if you're at home and you're doing this in your pajamas and you're lounging, it's a little bit different than when you're in a quiet environment. So how do we, again, simulate these conditions for them so they're ready and they're prepared? Allowing them to get to know Blue Book, like we mentioned, all those different features, all those different options that really help them, make sure that they're comfortable and they can utilize them and they know what works for them. And then study with practice scores. Again, there's some data that we'll go over in a second that talks about how helpful the practice tests can be, but we want them to be intentional. We have something called specific questions that are tailored to the students, and those are key in helping your students perform better and understanding all this knowledge that they need. So when students do complete a test in Blue Book, this is what they see, and we'll want them to click on that View Your Score. And this is what they'll look like. Once students log into My Practice, they will see the score report cards from all their other completed practice tests. And from there, students can click on a specific practice test to examine and dig a little bit deeper. And this is what that looks like. This is the card for My Practice test. You can see there's 3 different options. The yellow and below score details, which we'll go over. But we'll also touch on practice on Khan Academy and practice specific questions. Let's start with score details. This is what it looks like. It's a screen that scrolls down, and I'll show you what the bottom of that screen looks like in a second. But you can see here all the things that it looks like. It's similar to what we see in terms of administrators or instructors and how students perform. And that's what we want students to have. We want them to have insight into their performance. We want them to be more engaged with their own education and where they are in terms of how they're performing. And again, same screen, but if you scroll down, they can also see specific questions, what they got right, what they got wrong, and they can review it, which is great. We want them to look back to see where they made some missteps and how they can improve upon it. And this is something that we want to show everybody. This is huge, we think. This is data that we have that shows the benefit of students taking practice tests, which definitely makes a lot of sense. The more times you do anything, the better you're going to get at it. But it just, if you see here on the top, the bar graph, the light blue is individuals who have taken 1 practice test. The medium blue is individuals who have taken 2 practice tests. And the dark blue is individuals who have taken 3 practice tests. Getting students more comfortable with the content, with the platform, with everything, helps them perform better within this assessment. It helps them understand where they are in their knowledge and skills and what they need to improve upon. So taking that practice test, reviewing, and then taking another assessment ensures that these individuals, based upon the data, will improve upon their scores. So if you as a district are looking for something to help these students reach those college and career readiness levels that Maureen touched upon, to make sure that they're meeting those Michigan State standards, taking practice tests is a huge asset for individuals. And then when we go back to those scorecards, this is something else that they can do. We partner with Khan Academy. They're amazing partners who have amazing content. That's something that students can dig into. And then this is a goldmine, honestly. These practice specific questions, these are tailored to the students. They hint on areas based upon where the student have performed. And so they're meeting the students where they are at and helping them grow from that point. But what we really want to hear from is Erin again, and just thinking about how she utilizes Blue Book, how she maximizes that application to help their students understand what the state wants, what those state standards are. Erin?
Okay, so a couple of ways that I use Blue Book is we are now a one-to-one school, so each of our students have their own Chromebooks, which is important if you are trying to give a practice test during the class period, because when a student opens a practice test on their Blue Book app, they do have to start and finish that test on the same device. So that's important to make note of. So this year when we became a one-to-one school, I used the Blue Book app as part of my SLO for my students. So we took a practice test at the beginning of the year. We did module 1 in one day and then module 2 the second day. Students do have to finish an entire test to get a score. So we just kind of went just through the math part in our class. And I just got the ELA score from that particular practice test. Just know though that if your math teacher wants to use that same practice test, they could do the exact same thing. Students can take these practice tests as many times as they want. So our math department did do that. They went through the English part, just bypassing those questions, and then answered the math part and got a separate math score. So utilizing it for pre-test live with the tools was pretty valuable for the students. I also offer practice tests on the weekends during holiday break time, and then a couple other times before the actual test. So I think if you go to the next slide, I think it's on there. I print out these instructions, and I can share this with educators as well if they would like. I put this piece of paper on the desks during the practice test. I keep my room open from 8 a.m. until noon, and students can come in at any time that works for them during that time period, start a test, take the entire test, and then these directions show them how to find their answers after they've taken that practice test. It's a day that I'm at the school anyway, so I just keep the classroom open and students can take a full-length test live and get that in the classroom setting. So that might be something your school might consider. But you can make copies of this and just select which practice test you'd like them to take. There are 10 of them on the Blue Book platform. And then if you go to the next slide, This is what it looks like. We kind of talked about that already. You select which test you'd like to take. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And it shows the students which questions they got correct. They can click on them so they have a better understanding of what mistakes they're making or what they're doing well. Then you can go ahead and go to the next one. And here it is again, the full description of the question and how they answered and whether or not it was correct. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And we talked about this already. Just make sure that students know when they go to log into the Blue Book app, their Google permissions are not saved on the Blue Book app, so they will have to know what their password is to log in to take a practice test with their College Board email and their password. So that will be something that you might want to have a conversation with students before they come to take the test. Okay, I'll go ahead and go to the next one. I give out this SAT planning sheet to our teachers after we talk about some of the resources that are available to them. We didn't get into a ton of them because we're running out of time, but know that College Board has a question of the day on the student login through the College Board website. Students can do one question each day. They get little Snapchat-like streaks, so students kind of feel that gamified version of the SAT question of the day. Know that that is something that's available. I have question of the day slideshows that I've created from these Blue Book tests, practice tests that I use in my classroom. Those become really important tools because I can do one question every day in the same format that the test is written in. And those become really quick discussions, but it makes the students feel really comfortable when they're going in to take the test because they've seen a full test and they've talked about every single type of question with me before they go and take it. I do Khan Academy. I don't start Khan Academy until January, around that time frame, because I don't want to burn them out on Khan, which is something that can definitely happen, but I do give them a schedule. I go over the 4 content domains because Khan Academy is linked to those 4 same domains that they're familiar with. We do a quick little 5-minute mini lesson. Students can practice on Khan Academy throughout the entire week. And then I just give them a quick Google form quiz at the end of that week, just to make sure that they are actually doing the Khan Academy themselves and not having their friend do it for them. We know how that works. So this planning sheet just is a quick overview of a lot of the resources that are available through College Board, but we kind of forget about because they're all just all together. So this is a piece that teachers can use to think like, if I'm going to do one thing from now until my students take the test, what's one thing I could focus on and become maybe a master at and help my students understand this. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about the Educator Question Bank either, but that's also an incredibly valuable tool. You can download questions specifically for each content domain, print those off. Your teachers could use those as exit tickets, or maybe you could do a question a day through that. I have kind of sorted those out. So if you're looking for some resources for like your social studies department or your science department, I've gone through those Educator Question Bank questions and separated them by, here are some social studies questions, here's some science questions, here are some art questions, here are some theater questions. So that if you're looking for ways to get your other teachers in your building involved with the style of questions, to know that their content is covered on this test. Students will be reading passages from multiple content areas, and I think that's an important piece that your educators need to know. So I can share this planning piece if you would like, as well as the planning piece that I have when teachers go over the data to look at questions or looking at your own school's data and where they should be approaching or where they should be focusing to find the strengths and weaknesses. So that was a really quick overview. Sorry, but if you want more information, I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone.
Thank you so much, Erin. And I know folks definitely want to hear a little bit more too about merging Educator Question Bank usage as well. Know that in the full deck, when we share this out, the slides will be there with live links to be able to visit the Educator Question Bank. And I did put the link in the chat there. Erin, also, if you don't mind putting your contact information in the chat, Dennis and I will do the same. But we wanted to thank you for the time today. And as previous teachers, we all overplanned a little bit, but know that you'll have far more robust content when you receive the deck. But at any time, we are here as a team to support you. So if you'd like to dig into these resources further or have more questions on the Knowledge and Skills report, we saw some great ones in the chat there. Feel free to also reach out to us. With that, Ryan, is there anything else from your perspective for the good of today's webinar?
Nope, just give us a couple days to get the resources and the recording mailed out. And as Maureen mentioned earlier, we have some other College Board webinars coming up in the new year. So be sure to check out massp.com/events to see what other webinars we have in store in the new year. I love getting to say that now that we're getting close to that time of the year, right? So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate it. And thanks, Erin, for bringing your practitioner lens for today. And thanks, everyone, for joining.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.